Hey everybody, coming to you live today. I'm not doing anything, um, not doing a podcast episode, just kind of wanted to come here. I'm actually streaming two places. So if you see me looking up, is because I'm on TikTok. I got TikTok running and I'm actually here on YouTube, but want to talk about a topic that I just kind of want to discuss, and it has to do with gatekeeping. Now, I know that I am a woman of a certain age, so I understand when there is a particular talk in the marketplace that is amongst the youth that is very popularized. And so gatekeeping is one of the popularized words in today's vernacular when it comes to the internet. And that is why I want to do a video about it's not real. Gatekeeping is actually an illusion. I actually wrote on Facebook about gatekeeping is a internal it's an internal construct. It is not external. It's not an external construct. And what do I mean by that? I am going to relate gatekeeping. I'm going to relate gatekeeping to what I do here on the internet. And here on the internet, I talk a lot about funding, financing, and real estate, and how you can leverage those things to build wealth. And so, something that is very popularized amongst individuals on the internet um, is that people are withholding information. So, that's why I always say it's an internal construct, it's not external. And what I mean by that, it doesn't exist. So, when I say, it is an internal construct, it doesn't exist. Gatekeeping is not real. That is something that a person has internalized themselves, because it comes from a place of, we are in a generation and we're in a place where people feel entitled. And I'm just going to call it what it is. That's right. People kind of just feel entitled that if you know about a particular subject, that you are supposed to just pour into people and give them what the youth call the game. And my thing is this. This is why I always say that gatekeeping is not real, it is only an illusion, is because we live in a day and time where information is abundant. It is abundant. I mean, you have books, you have podcasts, you have free PDFs, you even have Chat GPT. And that's just a few. We're not even talking about libraries. Last I remember, libraries are still free. You don't pay any fee to go to no library. You still have libraries, you still have Barnes and Noble, they are still around. The list goes on and on. And you even have people who just give books away. Now, with all that information that is in the world, how do people still create a construct that there is gatekeeping? That's why I said it doesn't exist. Gatekeeping doesn't exist. It has no place. It only exists when a person wants to believe that gatekeeping exists. That's right. There are people who want to create a narrative, a construct in their head that gatekeeping exists. And I'm here to say it doesn't exist. Too much information out there. You got Chat GPT, but let me tell you what does exist. What does exist is that you do have people who don't want to do research. That is now become a relic. People do not want to research. People do not want to read. People just want you to just pour into them. And that is why I said it's not that gatekeeping exists. It's just that people don't really want to do the research that is necessary to be able to do what's necessary to learn a particular topic. So for those on YouTube, if you see me looking to the side, I got two things streaming. I have TikTok and then I'm here on YouTube. So, TikTok, hey, thank you for joining and popping in. TikTok is rocking. And then, of course, I have YouTube. I mean, of course, YouTube is somewhere that I've always staked my flag, where I am here a lot, but I've also been leaning on to in the TikTok universe. So I'm going live with them on here. So I'm not doing a podcast episode, but like I was saying, going back to the whole conversation of gatekeeping, let me give you an example of what I mean. Now, on top of all the things that I just mentioned of what's free, in the marketplace, when it comes to getting content, getting information, or what have you, um, I'm trying to see. Hey, how you doing? I know this is so rude when you're on one platform and you try to go back and forth with another. Um, so going back to what I said, now what do I mean when I talk about information? So a few weeks ago, maybe about 2 weeks ago, I attended a first time home buyers workshop where I spoke. I spoke about asset based lending and construction loans. And once again, no gatekeeping, no gatekeeping. Those who knew about it, it wasn't my event. I was invited to speak, so it was somebody else's event, and I spoke about asset based lending and construction loans. Um, you know, Stood up and spoke, gave information, gave content, gave resources to people for at least 30 minutes. Let me share with you why, even in the context of, and it was at a library. So, once again, free.com, people did not have to pay. I actually went outside into the library where I saw people, just, in the library, maybe reading. There were some events that were going on. And I actually said to a few people, I said, hey, why don't you just come in to this workshop, this free workshop? It's a first time home buyers workshop teaching individuals how they can invest in real estate. Ask me how many people you know, decided to come inside to this workshop. Zero. Now, of course, if you want to relate it to, well, how many people did you speak to? Wasn't that many people. It was a Saturday morning or early Saturday afternoon. I may have spoken to 10 adults about coming in. There was even the person who hosted it. They even had snacks for people. So there was refreshment. So, if a person was thirsty or needed something to just snack on, there was something there. And like I said, ask me how many people came. Nobody took me up on the offer. So that is why I always say gatekeeping doesn't exist, because there is tons of information that is out there in the marketplace when it comes to information. But like I said, what is missing, what is not um, a common thing in the marketplace, is people who know how to do research. In terms of, I always say, cite your source. There's people who don't know how to do research. And so you can share a thing with a person. And this has always been my thing, even when I have been online sharing content. I always share resources and share sources so people can be able to fact check anything that I've said. I always say, don't take my word for it. You can actually go to this resource and check for yourself. And lo and behold, a lot of people don't even do that. So you have to be very careful of people who want to create this narrative of um, people are gatekeeping. Oh, this person is gatekeeping. They don't want to tell nobody nothing. They're gatekeeping. Doesn't exist. It's an internal construct. When a person is saying that you're gatekeeping, or the information you have is gatekeeping, is really a stab at saying you know some information and you need to literally pour into me until I can understand it. And I always say, when I do these free lives, like I'm doing streaming here on TikTok, hey TikTok, thanks for joining me, thanks for coming in the room, and I'm here on YouTube. This is my community service content. This is where I pour and give information. Now, once again, value is really determined by the end user. What some people may find valuable, other people, another person may say, I don't see no value in it. And a lot of times, the whole value thing really stems from a person's level of understanding. That's really where value comes from. Because there are some people who are not familiar with a certain conversation. For example, on my podcast, Never Lose a Deal, I talk a lot about creative financing. So, like I said, talk a lot about funding, financing, creative financing, real estate. If a person is a first time home buyer, or a person is a newbie investor, they're new to real estate, they're not going to see value into creative financing because, number one, they may have never got exposed to anything outside of what it is that they know how to do. And if they're a first time home buyer, they may have only learned how to buy their own home. So, me talking about how you can creatively buy real estate from the bank, leverage different forms of capital to be able to acquire the piece of real estate that you want, a person may not even understand, or even can grasp the understanding of that, because they just don't get it. Once again, that's where value comes in. What's valuable to one person may not be valuable to another person. Same way with me. I don't find value in someone teaching me how to budget my personal finances. That doesn't appeal to me, because why? I'm not new to the subject matter. It's a very it's a topic that I'm way beyond. That's, I always say, that's baby food. And now I'm at a PhD level. So I'm not in preschool, and now I'm, a PhD and still looking to get fed by things that are on a preschool level. Once again, that's where the whole conversation of gatekeeping comes from, because with gatekeeping, uh a person is literally at a preschool level. It goes back to, it's an internal construct. It is not real. Gatekeeping is not real. It's only real to the person who has no understanding about a particular topic. So now they want someone to fast track them from preschool or kindergarten all the way to a PhD. And it's nothing wrong with that. Some people can grasp a topic really fast, but it's not the person who is delivering the information. It is not their responsibility to get you on the fast track. That's something that you have to do. So that's why I said, if people can just kind of pre-frame, some of the things that they say or how they look at life. And not to say that the way I look at life is the only way, but all it does, it just holds individuals back. because the whole idea, and I just don't understand how a person can be an adult, and I'm no science person, but I do believe that by the time you get 21 years old, I believe you have a fully developed brain. Now, this is what I do know on the when it comes to the conscious and the subconscious. Now, by the time you get 7 years old, what you have learned about, finances, money, um uh uh just the scope of understanding where it comes from, how to create it, being in lack, being in scarcity, being in abundance, all that is created by the time a person gets 7 years old. So when you become 7 years old, anything that has been told to you about, your understanding and mindset about money has already been created. Once again, going back to the whole gatekeeping and saying that it doesn't, it's not real. Because think about it. If you are an adult of the age of at least 21 years old, you have a fully developed brain. By the time you were 7 years old, anything that you know about money and understanding about money, it has already been developed based on your exposure in your household. There are people who have created this narrative, going back to the whole gatekeeping thing, this narrative that there are people who are withholding information, and it's very common in the space of business credit and business funding. you know oh, the banks don't want you to know this. Man, pick up a book. What are you talking about? The banks don't want you to know this. And any information, especially when it comes to the world of economics and financing in the US. I'm not talking about in the world, in the US. Yes, I do believe that there have been some information, and not that information. It wasn't information, it was policies. See, there's a difference between policies and information. And so once again, when people don't read and they don't understand, they'll take policies that were at one time in place to keep people from being able to get access to things. But once those policies were over, the information was available. Understand, those are two different things. There's two different things in policies and information. So when I hear people talk from a lack perspective, there are groups of people who don't want you to know this. Nah, that's not really it. It's not because of information, 'cause there's tons of information out there. And I get the conversation of, well, if you don't know the right questions to ask, then you're not going to get the right answers. Well, then that's where, that's where reading comes in. That's where cite your source. That's where you have to do some research. You have to read some books. So as you begin to read and you begin to expose yourself to different things, then you will know, okay, there's a difference between policies that were put in place for you to not have access to certain things, and then there's information. Two different narratives. In 2025, the policies are not really in place. A lot of times, the policies that are put in place, we may not understand the small nuances that go along with it. Because how can you learn and expand and know what policies even exist out there if you're still operating from the mindset of people are gatekeeping? No one wants to share the game. No one wants to tell us to play. But now you're not even open to reading what's possibly even out there. because now you are relying, and that's another thing. How can you be an adult? How can you be a grown adult expecting another adult to feed you information? Like, to me, that right there is just, it's just insane. I don't understand the brain of an adult who expects other adults to feed them from a knowledge standpoint, when you got the same access, the same hours in the day, 24 hours. Nobody gets no extra hours. Nobody don't get 26, and this one gets 28, and that one gets 24. No, we all have the same 24 hours in the day. We do. Now, how are those hours used? And so I'm of the belief, and that is why I love social media platforms. Of course, it's up to you to do a more deeper research. There are times where you can be exposed to information that you didn't know exists. That's why I totally understand the conversation when people say, well, you don't know. If you don't know the right questions to ask, you're not going to get the right answers. I totally get that. But that's why it is necessary to read. The mere fact that an adult is expecting another adult to know all the blind spots and all the moving parts that a person may need. Once again, that comes from the whole gatekeeping. Because, like I said, gatekeeping is not real. What it really is, and this is just my assessment of it, it's a person who's at a kindergarten level. They have kindergarten knowledge, or they have no knowledge. And now they want to fast track themselves on a PhD level. And there's nothing wrong with that. If a person has gotten they 10,000 hours, because wasn't it Malcolm Gladwell who wrote that book and said that when a person is at the peak, at the pinnacle of understanding a particular subject matter, they have put in 10,000 hours. That's based on his research. I haven't did the research myself, but that's what he's saying. And one thing I know the things that I know and I have an understanding of. Yes, it has taken time, understanding, um, you know, experience, implementation, because that's a whole nother thing. We live in a time and space now on the internet where many people don't have the experience. They have never implemented. So now what it is that we have people who just really regurgitating what other people have said because they have no experience. Because once again, when you have a whole um, society of people who don't read, and now the only information they get, this falls back into gatekeeping. Why it's just an internal construct. When you have a group of people where all they just get their information from people, they don't read. It almost reminds me of a dystopian movie. Those dystopian books like Fahrenheit 451, and what is that, Animal Farm or whatever, these so-called worlds or whatever. Well, one thing about, what is it, Fahrenheit 451, is that the name of that book, Naya? Fahrenheit, Naya, that book, uh, dystopian book, Fahrenheit 451, where in this world they're getting rid of books. They're burning books. So books are now becoming a rare commodity. That's what the book was about. And then they made a movie. The movie had what's that guy, Michael B. Jordan, in it, and he played um I think he played like a fireman or a policeman in the movie. And it was all about, in this new world there's no books. Well, once again, that supports that whole gatekeeping narrative, because when now your only information comes from people, it doesn't come from You actually picking up a book, you actually doing research, you actually getting experience, you actually implementing. And now you're just relying for people to give you information and pour into you. That's where that construct will come from. Because for the life of me, I'm never going to understand. I'm never going to get that. I'm never going to get that. Like, it's no way that you could tell me that there are a group of people. But understand, we currently are now under the regime here in the U.S. where there are people who want you to believe that if information isn't given to you and you don't go out there and seek it, you're going to miss out. You're going to miss out. So that's why now in this day and time, you want to be very careful of people who put up the whole illusion of, I know something that you don't know. Because this is what I tell people all the time. It's not that I know something that you don't know, because you can know this too. It's just that I am not the person who is going to spend the time to pour into you. Now, I let my community service content do that. My free videos on YouTube, me streaming from TikTok, me doing a podcast, articles that I write on my blog. That's my community service content. That is my ability to give freely. But if a person wants me to actually give my time, be very involved in the process of relating that information, because everything that I talk about, I actually know how to do. I have the experience. I have implemented it. That's totally different than a person who is falling under the disguise of information. Two different things. Let's be clear. Two different things. Understand. People get. We live in a time and space now that people know you're not going to cite the source. You ain't going to ask to cite the source. People can tell you something. Won't nobody research it? No, won't nobody look into it? They will take it as face value. So it's almost like we are living in a modern day dystopian movie or book. Like I said, Fahrenheit 451, where literally nobody, the government has taken books. You cannot read books. You don't have access to information. And the only information you're going to get is from the people. Don't create that world for yourself. In 2025 and beyond, do not create the world where you just rely on people to just tell you things and you don't cite your source, you don't fact check. I tell people all the time, I can give you the source, I can tell you where you can prove me wrong. I have experience. This is not something that I am regurgitating. So I know, like I said, um, this is something that's totally in a different direction than what I usually talk about on YouTube, which is why it's not going to be a regular podcast episode. I haven't decided yet if I do want to upload it as a podcast episode. But I do want to say this: do not create a world in your head that you believe that gatekeeping is real. It doesn't exist. It's a mental construct. It's not external. There's too much information out there. Just the mere fact that you have Chat GPT, and I'm not no AI specialist, but I have played around with it. There is some information that you can get out of Chat GPT. But we still have the old fashioned library. And so, with that, along with, of course, cite your source when you're online and you listening to people, fact check what they're providing, what they're sharing with you. But also, don't create the narrative that people are keeping things from you, because they're not. And so I want to leave this live with saying, I am going to be hosting a live workshop. This workshop is going to go deeper into funding and financing and being able to put deals together. This is not going to be information, it's implementation. Will there be information shared? Yes, but it's going to be solely about implementing strategies, my funding methodology, how you can work with lenders. You can either work with the lenders that I currently work with, but if there are lenders that you want to work with in your local market or who you have interest in, we're going to go into putting deals together and what it will look like. Because this is what I've noticed in the marketplace, primarily when it comes to business funding, business credit, and real estate. And that is what I want to say. The workshop that I'm going to be doing is not going to be about, it's not going to be credit repair disguised as business credit. It's not going to be how to get a business credit card and then on the side invest in real estate. It's not going to be that. It's literally going to be for individuals who are real estate investors who are looking for other creative ways to be able to acquire real estate, meaning they know they're not an expert in funding and financing. They are an expert in what it is that they do. And you have to decide because it's kind of hard being an expert in everything. Successful people know that they seek out people who specialize in a particular area. I don't try to be my own lawyer. I don't try to be my own appraiser. I don't try to be my own title person. I let professionals do that. And it's the same way when it comes to financing and funding. Professional, and I say seasoned real estate investors understand that. They're not trying to be newbies. They're not trying to be experts in funding and financing. And that's pretty much what the workshop is going to be about, is how to expand your funding toolbox to be able to acquire more real estate to do deals. That is really what the workshop is about. The workshop is for a few hours. It's a live workshop here in Jersey, and we start at 11. And then it's over. And we'll go into the early afternoon. Oh, what did I do? Oh, what am I doing? And we'll go into the early afternoon. So you'll learn more. If you want to know more about it, just go to www.neverloseadealevents.com to learn more about it. Oh, Lord, what am I doing? For those who are watching me on YouTube, I have this going on. Help me out here. Now I figured it out. Yeah. So www.neverloseadeal.com, neverloseadealevents.com. This is not going to be a live, it's not going to be a webinar. It's in person, and the location will be given to you when you purchase a ticket. And so if you're in the New Jersey area, come join me, and let's plan on putting together a strategy to assist you with doing more deals, because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be unpacking, analyzing deals. If you currently are working on deals or looking at deals, how you can put them together. And then also, I'm going to be sharing some of my off market techniques that I have with being able to get access to properties that are not on the MLS and that you can get directly from asset managers at hedge funds and banks. And so I will be sharing some of that as well. And so and I'm looking forward to sharing this information. Like I said, it's not how to get a business credit card. So I tell people, if you're looking for the secret lenders list, how to get a business credit card, how to invest in real estate for the first time, that's not this. This is for seasoned investors, real estate investors who are doing deals, who have did deals, and they want to expand their funding and finance opportunities, and they know that they are not experts in that space. Because one thing that I know about successful people don't try to be everything to everyone. I know for me, I don't try to do my own legal work. I don't try to do my own title work. I don't try to do my own appraisals. There are things in real estate that I keep to the professionals. I don't do fix and flips, but if I did those, I would hire a contractor. And it's the same way with financing. For some reason, and this only is in the newbie circles. So that's why I said this event is not for newbies, but it's only in the newbie circles where newbies have been convinced that you should do it all. You should not pay for help, and I'm not here to change that mindset, because a lot of times that mindset is also related to the whole gatekeeping mindset. But what I've realized, and I show grace for those group of individuals, because the reason why I show grace is because a lot of times they are at a kindergarten and preschool level. They're just getting fed baby food. I can't expect them to be able to eat solid food. And a lot of the information and a lot of the strategies and my funding framework are for real estate investors or individuals who are eating solid food, not baby food. And that's why I said baby food is you trying to rebuild your credit, you trying to get your first credit card, you're trying to buy your first investment property. I think there's a lot of information already on the internet and in the space that really assist you with that. And that's not what I do. Is as much as people can try to use the same vernacular and the same words, I'm very clear on who I serve. And a lot of times it's like I said, people may want to give the illusion that we're talking to the same people, but we're not. Like, I'm very clear. There's a reason why I do things the way I do. If you go to, like I said, the website for the event, never lose a deal events.com, it is a long sales letter. There's a reason why I have it long. There's a reason why there's a lot of words, because I want to detract any and everyone who don't like to read. Going back to what we talked about earlier, about there's people who do not like to read. They despise reading. They just want people to pour into them. So I do whatever I can to detract those people. People that I work with, a lot of times they are professional salary individuals. Either they have worked a salary before, they're either in a six-figure job currently and they do real estate on the side, or they were and they are doing real estate on the side. They read, they invest in themselves. Totally different person than the person who's like, this person is gatekeeping. No one wants to tell me information. I don't know why I didn't become a credit card millionaire. that's not who I tend to work best with. Of course, many of those people, of course, it's a free world. They may watch the content, but it's not going to land because, like I said, I understand. I show grace. A lot of times, those tactics and strategies are for people who are they're feeding off of baby food. They're at an infant stage, and I'm providing solid food strategies and methodologies to help individuals. So understand is it's a different dynamic. It's a different group of people, and I get that. So that's why I tell people, um, give yourself grace, and don't expect, um if you don't know a particular topic, just sit in that space to say, okay, I just don't know this particular thing, but I've been exposed to it, and let me just go and do research about a particular thing. But to expect you as a grown person don't know something, and then expecting another grown person to just pour into you and teach you what it is that you lack, that right there is just that's just unreal. So I am going to hop off over here on YouTube, gonna bounce over here on TikTok and see what's going on. And like I said, YouTube, all the information about the particular workshop is going to be under this video. But you can also go to www.neverloseadealevent